And we're off. Welcome to TGI, the greatest indoor reading series. I am Trina Thibodeau, founder of TGI and poor substitute for our show's charismatic host, Ridge Cresswell. Luckily, poet and TGI alum Charlotte Seeley has graciously agreed to host tonight's festivities. Seeley is a poet, writer, and editor from the Hudson Valley region of New York, currently residing in Kansas City, Missouri with her cat, Lord Byron. She is the author of The World is My Rival and the chapbook, Da Young, Letters to Kesha. Highly recommend. A graduate of the Emerson College MFA program, she previously served as editor-in-chief and poetry editor of Redivider and a poetry screener for Plowshares. Her work can be found in Wax 9, Leveler, Luna Luna Magazine, Rattle, Passages North, Glass, A Journal of Poetry, Barrel House, and others. And you can take it away, Charlotte.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone on this magical Zoom box for being here. That's awesome. So I'm just gonna jump in. I know that I can't have that, what did you call it? The honey voice? The honey voice that Rich has. So I'll just jump in. Let's hear some work. Let's hear some poetry and stuff. All right, so our first reader for tonight is Jane Rosenberg LaForge. Her third collection of poetry, Medusa's Daughter, will be published by Animal Heart Press on February 16th of this year. So get your pre-order in now, please. Her previous collections were Daphne and Her Discontents, and With Apologies to Mick Jagger, Other Gods, and All Women. She also published 4 chapbooks, including The Navigation of Loss, which was a co-winner of Red Ochre Lit's chapbook contest in 2012. Her poetry has most recently been nominated for the Best of the Net compilation, and she has previously been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and the StorySouth Million Writers Award. Her second novel, Sisterhood of the Infamous, will be published by New Meridian Arts Press on February 23rd, 2021. Hey, back-to-back releases, that's awesome. She also reviews books for American Book Review and reads poetry for COUNTERCLOCK Literary Magazine. So please put your hands together for Jane.
So should I just start? So I'm going to be reading some books. I'm going to be reading some poems from Medusa's Daughter. So I hope you can all get interested in that. And I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to thank Noli and Trina for having me, and some other people are here, some friends of mine, and I'm very glad that they're here. So I'll just start reading from Medusa's Daughter, and I'm going to read the poems in kind of a chronological order so you get an idea of what the book is about. So the first poem is called Medusa's Resources. Instead of the luxurious shafts of screens and radio advertisements, she is given a wiry batch, stinging at the eyes as if diamond-backed, black and rusted, and in an age when she will know children, an inevitable absence, like an assault beyond the scalp into the smooth muscle inside the cranium. Not exactly snake-like, but conscious patterns copied from the anonymous, discovered quickly, repeated, when no one is watching, and when discovered again, they are abandoned. They're how she keeps straight notions of the past in a non-language, from German to its Hebrew and Swiss variants, to describe non-incidents embedded in the form, although everyone has their own model, regardless of whether they can admit it. So when she asks which feminine hygiene products are in stock, she has brought a diaper and accepts it in a rage of embarrassment. When she solves the puzzle of war, liberation, economics, tearing family and community apart, she expects an award of more time, but is undecided between Greenwich Mean and Pacific Standard. Time pours, spills, inundates. She suspects she's been robbed. She'll invest the rest of her life searching for orphaned minutes. After a full circle, pre and post meridian, the identity of seconds remains ambiguous. They are lodged somewhere between embers and splatters, the ash from hard black anthracite, the seat of madness and origins, the venoms she was born with. This one is called Medusa's Crime and Punishment. Birth and death, too powerful for a woman to practice. I am no longer practicing medicine, she always said. After the cancers and diabetes, one a birth of sorts, the other the obliteration of an organ. To balance all this, not in one mind, but with everything else. The brain that is physical, the metaphysics, the scalp that shields and repels, that suffers from exposure in its task of camouflage. Perhaps if there was more than one woman in charge, a bevy of personalities for a cacophony of demands, blue manias, mean reds, though that's not the way the authors wrote it. I wish I could be like Henry Kissinger, she said, and always know the magic word, the revelatory comment. Or I could be like a god, the one who planned this, though there is only one God, but not in her religion. In hers, there are none. That's why she must be punished, taken from her family, not for what she failed to stop before the idols from seeing in the temple, and not because she is a victim, but because she is a believer in her convictions, in her own clear way of thinking. Okay, this is called Mommy Medusa. Thanks. This is called Mommy Medusa, and I took a line from Scott Hightower, who is a poet from Texas. He's out there somewhere, I don't know where he is. There were no snakes in her hair, only voices, a wreath of harpies and reptiles, the kind that make a life in the suburbs. In her daughter's classroom, Lucky 13, besides the rabbits and terrariums, a lesson on nurturing. They all have a similar lineage, animals. It's been proven in the textbooks. Unlike a jury of supposed peers, because they couldn't have been equals, my mother had been to college. She knew what damage a whispering chorus could do. Yet they chipped away too close to the soul in the statue, submerged under artful compromises, so that the thing would stand with its flat feet and junk immune system, and what was left over, grains and slivers, like dandruff that made a crown of thorns on her pillow. I borrow this image knowingly because it is appropriate. Mommy Martyr, she called herself. As long as she doesn't see the pattern on the pillowcases, she will outlive all of us. Thanks. Okay, this is called Nostalgia, and we're going to have a book launch, which I can tell you about if it's okay. For this book, I'll tell you about it on the chat later, but they asked me to read this at the launch, so now I'm reading it to you. It's called Nostalgia. I long to hurt myself because it proves a theory about childhood being a test against limits. How I would scrape my toes against the asphalt as I rode my bike barefoot and not notice until I was home, where I could no longer be impervious. I thought my skin would explode from a bee sting. A mosquito bite guaranteed misery and swollenness. I needed these assaults so I could be doomed and beautiful like the pretty girls were, though my solutions did not reciprocate upwards to my face and countenance, or whatever path the blood took. They still saw me as an urchin and still do, working with the usual implements. Though I work with nostalgia, the flat but rough surface of the only level street in my neighborhood, to wear away layers I'll need later, but then took for granted. That's what nostalgia is. This one is called At the Children's Table. What good did it serve to keep a lid on the secrets, abortions, affairs, mental illnesses, and confinements, a family afflicted by degrees and indifference? We kids had our own to conserve. Perhaps you'd rather have them revealed chronologically. In 1969, we talked about Custer, last in his class, but the most famous. In 1971, it was Lenin and Trotsky. 74, Frida Kahlo in Mexico City. Not until the 80s, with our father safely abandoned, could we discuss the symbolism inherent in our childhood punishments. Peas in the mashed potatoes no longer seemed quite so momentous, and the bird we called Mister, as we were escorting him into the oven, took on a shocking resonance. By the 90s, we were all vegetarians. In the new century, we volunteered to do the dishes, sets and patterns from a cornucopia of marital arrangements, interspersed with the unceremonious cookware of everyday occasions. At least as adults, we were more assiduous in this tradition, stacking the racks with care and fortitude, so no more would be lost neither to truth nor temperature, or the sterilizing rinse for future despoilments. This is called Mark of Cain and Abel. Excuse me. My mother, besieged by glasses of milk, demands for soda, the summary filing of kitchen implements, hard water fluoridating her mind and muscle. In the dishwasher, unwanted minerals seared their disinfecting trails onto the flatware and other wedding presents as if marking territory or the limits of patience. Like a map and its legends, and they seemed declaring portent or prophecy when the builders scratched the new sink as the house was built in stages. Onto the bright enamel, a black byway into the soul of the kitchen, as if the family, now dead, was always headed for a zero-sum destination. At sale, the realtor tried to cover it as a brother fools a parent by strapping on hairy forearms onto his sibling with water softened by miraculous dish liquid, like a manicure in a more familiar setting. It worked, and it didn't. The house sold far beyond its worth and then was ripped to its foundations. This is called Free Winston, thank you. This is called Free Winston Burdett from the Vatican. And I'll tell you, Winston Burdett was a communist who gave up communism because the communists kidnapped his wife and were mean to her. They did something terrible to her. I don't really know. But anyway, so he was blacklisted because he was a communist, but he eventually had a job working for CBS News, reporting from the Vatican. So this is called Free Winston Burdett from the Vatican. When we learned about the white smoke from the television, from a voice on the verge of espionage, but it took that step, that plunge into iniquity, and we remembered. We listened like the last of the true believers, while our parents were reminded of other colors and substances, the blackening of names through long knives, like cardinals that arrive in New England, signaling winter. It's on the coast that all monsters have children, and some are outfitted in red diapers and loose schedules. While we were saddled with trivia of fellow travelers, a Tiffany standard for the obscure and erudite, like diamonds rather than crystals on the dining room lighting fixture. The peak of the spectrum that bends like water, a Roman fountain the ogres wash their ogrillions in. It's the ambition parents hold for their children that matters. Medusa drilled it into us, not so much to punish as to preserve a shred from times when the stakes were higher, shoes were a luxury, the prime ancestors ate toasted cheese sandwiches and played cards because they had run out of options, and an idea contained an uncertain future. Incubus, succubus, communists, at least they were post-biblical, even modern, and the last of their kind, we were taught, was kept locked up by the Pope in his mansion, lest he get out and start talking about the riches that were worthless on the open market. Free Winston Burdett from the Vatican, Medusa cried. And my father laughed at great personal risk, considering the ulcers and asthma, how he was put together with rock and paper clips. It was so funny. They had it printed on t-shirts. They were happy once, my parents, like the Buddha, or maybe Father Christmas. And I have one more poem left, that's okay? Okay, this is called Medusa's Grandbaby, so you can hear about how it all turned out. Bruises show most where the blood must go. Surfaces and vessels stretch to their limit, beyond give and flow. Love in a household made manic by light and molecules, or deterministic drivel. If they don't show the abrasions of official hospital conditions, what the nursing supervisor is authorized to tell the public, then the intrusion never happened. It is a figment of an overactive dramatist. Perhaps she'll be an actress someday or a writer. It's in her blood, far below where it might leave a contemporaneous record. Where the free will goes, where it hides and swallows, is the distance bewildered between red antiseptic draped over knees and shins like a dress switching in the wind, and the envy you wish you could conceal at your daughter's more perfect childhood. Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was awesome.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to tell you that when you read the line about the orphaned minutes, like the chat blew up, like everybody loved that line. And if you would like to, I wanted to ask you, I mean, imagining Medusa's daughter in this modern landscape, you know, and like the gods eating cheese sandwiches and stuff like that. Can you tell me a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about your inspiration for this, and, you know, what kind of drove you to write this fantastic collection that is coming out in a few weeks? And I think Noli's going to put some links in the chat. But yeah, if you could speak to that, Jane, I would.
Well, I've said this before. I grew up in a very I don't know how to say it. There were many events in my childhood. And if I told you all of them, you'd say, no way, this couldn't have happened in one place. So, or in one family. So, but it's the same thing with the Greek gods, right? Mm-hmm. That all this crazy stuff happened with them, and, you know, it just never stopped. You know, it was just, you know, it was a soap opera. It was dysfunction. I don't know what the right word is. You know, it was epic. It was like opera, right? So if I could frame the events of my childhood in the same way, then maybe it would be a little bit more believable, or it would go down a little bit easier. So that's kind of what the inspiration was.
I love that. Yeah. And the details that you include in all of the poems that you read tonight are just so vivid and so specific. You've done a fantastic job. So thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. And thank you for everyone for being here.
Absolutely. So our next reader for tonight is Jack B. Bedell. He's a professor of English and coordinator of creative writing at Southeastern Louisiana University, where he also edits Louisiana literature and directs the Louisiana Literature Press. Jack's work has appeared in Southern Review, Birmingham Poetry Review, Pigeonholes, The Shore, Cotton Xenomorph, OK Donkey, Eco-Theo, The Hopper, Terrain, Saltfront, and other journals. His latest collection is No Brother This Storm, and he served as Louisiana Poet Laureate from 2017 to 2019. And I believe Noli will have some links for the books in the chat as well. But please give it up for Jack B. Bedell.
Thank you all for having me. It's wonderful to be here. I'm a little nervous about reading. When you say I'm at Southeastern Louisiana University, I'm actually at Southeastern Louisiana University. My kids are so loud and my dog is so unruly that I couldn't stay at home to do it because I'm afraid it would break the whole system down. So I'm a little afraid that the police are going to knock on the door here in a little bit and say, "Get out of this office, sir." So if you hear a big knock and I'm dragged off, it's just the law. So I'm blessed to be here. Thank you all, everyone that's here listening. I'm going to read a couple of brand new poems, some prose poems from a couple series that I'm working on right now. And then I'll wrap up with a couple poems from the new collection of mine that's coming out Monday, actually. This first poem is from a series right now called Afternoon Rants. And it's really kind of just examples in bad parenting, I think. There are some song lyrics in here, but I'm not going to sing so at all. But I think you'll be able to tell the character of them. So this first piece is called "My Daughter Already Knows All the Words." It's the middle of the afternoon in the middle of the week, and the kids have piled into the car to head home from school. Book bags are already open to grab homework, and I'm halfway into my son about his world history grade, auto-spewing stuff my dad used to lay on me about how hanging out with knuckleheads makes you a knucklehead, and how life's an effort game, and how you are what the numbers say you are, and that what you think of yourself won't buy water. And the car is just driving itself west on 190 while I'm spewing, and all my old CDs are throwing old songs around the car that hang in the air like smells you can't even notice anymore. When my daughter makes the first sound I've heard all day that wasn't mine. Every day I wake up, we drink a lot of coffee and watch the CNN. Every day I wake up to a bowl of clover honey and let the locusts fly in. It's Clutch, and she's 11 singing along, adding fractions in her math notebook. Every time I look out my window, same three dogs looking back at me. Every time I open my window, cranes fly in to terrorize me. Power of the Holy Ghost, the power of the Holy Ghost. Just letting words out like breath. And I realize there's so many words I want to teach her that aren't these, like how to say no so people hear it, how to say I love you without it meaning I owe you. I don't want her picking words out of the air because they're hanging there. I want her to choose carefully to hear and to own. And I want her to be able to say okay and mean it, to know the difference between asking and praying. Oh, this burning beard, I have come undone. It's just as I feared. I have come undone. And my son with his knucklehead friends and his grades and the way he just knows he's the smartest thing in the car, and my old man telling his old man all this same stuff. She knows this song too. Heard it every day without having to listen. I just hope it'll come out different when she starts singing it. Thank you. And this next one's from a series of dream poems. I've been having the same recurring dreams since I lost my folks both in about a period of 3 years, a few years ago. And I've been having these really great dreams that every so often about kind of just doing normal stuff, like going to raid the refrigerator in the middle of the night, or checking downstairs for a plug-in or an extension cord or something, and I'll run into their ghost and just have these visits where they're doing things they always did. And I at first thought they'd be terrifying dreams when I'd had them the first couple times, but then I realized that actually they're like visits. And so here's an example of one. It's called Ghost Fishing. The tired son slogs downstairs for a bowl of cereal in the middle of the night. He just wants to feel the cold milk in the back of his throat and sit in the quiet of an empty kitchen. But right there on the arm of the sofa is the ghost of his dead father waiting for him to clear the banister. The old man always loved sitting there so he could look out the front door glass while he told stories. This night he's got a fishing story on loop, and there's no way the tired son can pass up the chance to hear his voice again. The ghost reminds him of the time they fished for specks off the dock of the family's camp, how they baited the hooks with crawfish and couldn't cast fast enough with all the fish they were pulling out of the pass. Speck after speck piled on the dock until tired son hooked a fish so small it was almost embarrassing to reel in. The ghost just shakes his head at the memory of how tiny that speck was and spreads his hands out wide to say it was about that far from the dock when a huge bull red swallowed it whole. And the tired son remembers just how heavy that line got, how the bull red made a hell of a run toward deep water. The ghost just keeps counting how many hands had to pitch in to drag the whole lot onto the dock, counts with the same grin on his face the old man had pulling that tiny speck out of that bull red, then yanking that crawfish out of that speck, just grinning like the whole catch was a big black top hat with a bottom so deep and full there'd be no end to any of it. Yeah, thank you. So this book, Color All Maps, is coming out from Mercer University Press Monday, February 1st. And I believe Millie has the links. I really appreciate her taking it so late because the link just came out. So thanks for putting that up. The first one I'll read from this is a poem I wrote during the New Orleans Writing Marathon when we could all get together and have fun outdoors a couple summers ago. I had just seen a picture of Coltrane's score to A Love Supreme. And if you've ever gotten the chance to see it, you know what I'm talking about. But if not, you should definitely Google it. When I saw it, I was expecting to see notes, but there are very few musical notes written on the score. It's mostly handwritten statements of his philosophies and his theologies and his belief in harmony and his faith. And this poem came pouring out of me as soon as I saw the image of the score. It's called Prayer Does Not Have to. Prayer does not have to whisper with reverence while clouds thicken to purple in the sky. It can percolate, chortle, and climb like Coltrane's horn in A Love Supreme, probing in fits and squawks, clearing a path upwards, then knocking over all stones until there is no right of way, no safe passage, nothing but timpani and bass drowning all hope in distance. I've been in that room where it's clear the storm is on its way, where the light diminishes its chord until harmonies fall off each other breathless. Let the thunder have its say, open a door to the sizzling wind, trust the score to give each note space, each need voice, until the whole room vibrates in halftones, raises itself into the sky. This loud song can find a stable key. This kind of noise can beg light down with a cymbal's roll. Thank you. And I'll close with this poem about my daughter again. This one is from one of the walks, one of the blessings we still get to enjoy since March. It's a kind of a neighborhood walk. It's called Summer Botany Lesson. No matter how many blossoms I point out exploding overhead on a neighborhood walk, my daughter isn't buying it. She's in love with the sound of bougainvillea. Thinks the word's so pretty, there's no way it stands for something real. She believes I made it up, strung long vowels and kissy soft consonants on a strand of rhythm to make her giggle. I wish I could tell a story that would win her faith, but learn to let it lie. Some truths beg for a fight. Some would rather echo on branches in crooked light while you just walk off holding hands. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. So I wanted to tell you that I've been kind of like trying to check the chat. I have two screens going on and it's kind of awkward, but everyone loved the part that I loved too in your first poem, which this is my chicken scratch, so I'm sorry if I butcher it, but how to say no so people hear it, how to say I love you without meaning I owe you. That is just so good. And I love that your poems to your daughter were kind of after these poems about a daughter, and then just kind of I feel like your readings were kind of talking to each other in a way. So tell us again about your new book that's coming out. I know Noli's going to post a link, but let's give it another plug. How about that?
Charlotte, could I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
This is Mada Lassa talking.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So I just wanted to say, I loved every poem. But if I could just say one thing to my darling man, please slow down and let us take it in, because you're a kind of a slow guy anyway, you know, all those wonderful images. But when you race through it, it's really like, I feel like I'm on the racetrack and I want to really take it all in. It was so beautiful. And just next time, slow down. That was all I would say to you. Everything about every line was exquisite. Your daughter, your dad, everything. But I wanted to like take it in. I felt a little breathless listening to you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a different kind of book from the last one I put out. The last one I put out was really dealing with coastal erosion and lost my family members, my mom and dad. And so there was a lot of questioning and searching in that book. And I really wanted to follow it up with a collection that offers some hope and offered some good in the day. And that's really what this collection, Color All Maps New, is about. It's just poems that, they deal with environmental issues in South Louisiana where I'm from, and it's full of family stories. But I made a point of trying to make these poems not just looking for the good in the day, but actually finding and kind of celebrating it. And that's, that's always been my New Year's resolution, is to find the good in the day. And it's real rare that I can intentionally go out and make a whole book out of that kind of personal quest. And I was able to do it in this last collection. So it's kind of a relief to get it out, because now I know that I was able to accomplish what I set out to do.
Yeah. And I think I know I do anyway, like we all need like a reminder of like the good that we can find in our, like, because I know I do that too. Like I'll take a walk and be like, what, I look at the same things all the time. What new thing can I discover? So yeah, thank you so much for your fantastic reading and for sharing all of your poems with us tonight. Really appreciate it. And I think everyone else did too.
Thank you all very much.
All right. So our next reader for tonight is Katie Manning. She is the founding editor-in-chief of Whale Road Review and a professor of writing at Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego. Her book, Tasty Other, won the 2016 Main Street Rag Poetry Book Award, and her fifth chapbook, 28,065 Nights, is newly available from River Glass Books. She enjoys beaches, books, board games, brownies, and alliteration. Please put your hands together for Katie Manning.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you all tonight. This is such a fun reading series. So I decided tonight that I'm going to read across collections. And this week, for better or for worse, I read that Atlantic article that everybody's been sharing about how the pandemic, even beyond the virus, is destroying all of our bodies, because we're all on screens all the time and we're like hunched over and we're all sitting more often. And, so for all of these reasons why our bodies are getting destroyed. So I decided that I was going to read body poems tonight. So the first body poem I'm going to read to you is from my first chapbook, which is The Gospel of the Bleeding Woman. And this chapbook is a collection that follows a minor character from the Bible who appears in 3 of the gospel accounts. And so I gave her a name and a backstory and kind of followed her around for a while. And then she misbehaved and jumped out of her time and place. And so I had to follow her all over the place. So this poem that I'm going to read for you involves this minor biblical character meeting Jesus in present day New York City. So this is called Where Death Is Not an Is, and it owes some of its title and some of its dialogue to Brian Henry's book Quarantine, which I was reading. It's a very freaky book, so if you haven't read Brian Henry's Quarantine, you should. But there are echoes of his text in here. So Where Death Is Not an Is. I met Jesus the next day at the Life Cafe. "Call me Jay now," he said. "People lock me up when I say I'm God." He pulled back his sleeves to show the marks on his arms from recent shots. I asked what I could do. "Just lie low," he said, between bites of falafel. "Dead is the way the world wants us. People hate to feel alive." We ate in silence for a while. Then I asked, "What happens to us?" He wiped his young hands and stood to leave. "We are finished," and kissed my cheek. I put my hand on his arm and told him the scars would be beautiful when they healed. So the next body poem I'm going to read for you is from my most recent chapbook. So we'll jump from the earliest to the latest. And this is 28,065 nights, which is the number of nights that my granny was alive. And she was kind of my other mother when I was young. And so after she died, I wrote these poems that are about her and also to her. So I'm going to read for you the center poem in the collection, which is called How I Measure Your Body. Your body was small but strong. Your body breached this world and lived to tell about it. Your body worked in fields and lived to tell about it. Your body birthed and fed 4 babies who lived. Your body was not glamorous, but did wear pink lipstick when you were young. Your body cooked and cleaned and avoided crowds. Your body was always at home. Your body of work is other people's bodies. Children who made children who are still making more children. You built these bodies with bread and beans, bandaged their wounds, kissed their cheeks. Even now, your body replicates itself in brand new bodies. Your nose, your feet, your rogue blonde head in a family of brown. Your body is at work still. Your body of water was always small, most often a filled kitchen sink or a half-filled bathtub. Your body was always scrubbing something, browned layers on cornbread pans and bean pots, browned layers on kids' and grandkids' bodies. You first saw the world's largest body of water when you were 64. Wow, you really can't see the other side, you said. Your body failed you and became a body or the body, no longer possessed. The body was cleaned, preserved, covered in your favorite pink dress, and placed inside a wooden box. At your viewing, there was music playing, and I danced beside your open coffin with my baby nephew, my body swaying to keep from falling, his body so small and so new. We're going to move from that one that always chokes me up a little bit to one that is a bit more lighthearted. So this is from my full-length collection, Tasty Other, which has a wonderfully creepy cover. I very much love the creepy doll cover. So sorry if you don't. It's not quite nightmarish. It's playfully creepy. So I like to say that this collection explores all of the wonder and terror of new motherhood. So there are poems that are based on anxiety dreams that I was having during pregnancy. And there are poems that interact with fictional mothers and historical mothers, biblical mothers. There are some autobiographical things, and it's just all swirling around there together. So the one I'm going to read for you tonight is Sleeping Beauty's Mother. A king and a queen wanted to have children. They tried everything. Travel to drink the waters of the world, vows of silence, solitude, and celibacy, pilgrimages to trendy shrines, prayers to various gods and goddesses, and nothing worked. Finally, they tried sex. The queen became pregnant. The king chased after fairies. 7 fairy godmothers came to give the baby gifts, though the king didn't bring the oldest fairy in the land, so she brought herself and a curse to the shower. The girl will prick her finger with a spindle and die. No, said the last young fairy, the girl will only sleep for 100 years, and she'll wake to a prince's kiss. Everyone loved the lovely young fairy, and everyone felt sorry for the little baby doll. The king passed anti-spindle laws, and the queen, tired of swollen breasts, sleepless nights, a king who was too friendly with fairies, thought of a century of sleep and a new young prince, and wished she had her daughters good luck. And I'm going to read one more poem, and this one is brand new. It was just published yesterday by Kahini Quarterly. And since it fit in with my body theme tonight, I decided to go ahead and put it in. So this one, I was quite shocked when I found out that Kahini Quarterly was publishing my poem at all, because they only publish 3 pieces a quarter. So that was wonderfully exciting. But it's a poem that I was a little nervous about sharing. And in the past day, I've had sort of a flood of messages from particularly women, but some men as well, and some non-binary folks also who have been telling me how they connect with this poem. And it's an unfortunately sort of common experience, I think. So I'm just going to read it. After an older man from church drunk texts to tell me I looked good topless in his dream last night. I wonder if my dream breasts were even close to accurate, if he imagined the tiny mole like a third eye between them, the stretch marks raked across my skin. I wonder if the nude beach jokes he sent last week caused this dream, or if the dream is just a lie he told because he wants to talk about my breasts. I wonder if he knows I once called him handsome after a friend wondered aloud, soon after his wife left, if he would remarry. I wonder if I'll forget this, like I've forgotten so many things men have said, or if I'll think of this each time I see myself in the mirror before a shower, the way I often think of the boy in 7th grade who asked why my eyes are so close together. I've only ever wondered how that boy could think my eyes were too close. I don't remember his name. Maybe in another 2 decades, I won't remember this man's name, and I certainly won't need him to tell me I look good with my third eye perfectly placed. I will see myself and know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was amazing. I have so many thoughts because I feel like you did such a great job in this collection of poems that you read for us of kind of like moving through all the different ways in which bodies move through life. Do you know what I mean? Like I wrote down like people hate to feel alive, right? And you're in this like restaurant scene, but then also everyone loved the line, your body is always at home. And then paired with the last poem you just read, which my brain is just like buzzing about all these things because I too relate to this. And just this idea that, you know, like people have access to your body even when you're not in your body, like, you know, like, which is so like wild to think about, but I mean, it happens all the time. So tell us about your books, where we can get them. I see that you have 3 here that Noli's going to put the links in the chat. And yes, tell us about your books. What's your most recent one that we can pick up? And yes. Oh, let me unmute you. That's a great idea.
Sorry, I muted myself and then I couldn't unmute again. So yes, the links are there. My latest collection is the 28,065 Nights chapbook, which are prose poems, and Riverglass Books was just a delight to work with. I can't say enough good things about them. So yeah, I definitely a press to support. They have other wonderful chapbooks as well. And my full length is with Main Street Rag, and I'm super grateful to them for the award and the support and the creepy cover that I love. So, but you're welcome to go through the publishers directly, or if you do want a signed copy from me, I'm happy to drop the link to my website, and you can send me an email or go through my PayPal me. And I love signing books and sending them to you. So. Yeah, thanks for asking.
So definitely everybody do that. That's awesome. And it's always great to support. I mean, it's great to support small presses, of course, but like, I always like to support the poet directly. So thank you for sharing that information.
Thank you.
All right. And we are going to meet our final reader for the night. Keith Kapka is, did I say that right? I hope so. I forgot to ask you. Keith Kapka. Good. Okay. Keith Kapka is a former touring punk musician whose poetry and criticism have appeared in Best New Poets, Mid-American Review, New Ohio Review, and the International Journal of the Book. His first collection of poems, Count 4, won the 2019 Tampa Review Prize for Poetry. He is also the author of the critical text, Asking a Shadow to Dance, an introduction to the practice of poetry, and a recipient of the International Award for Excellence from the Books, Publishing, and Libraries Research Network. Kapka is currently a senior editor at Narrative Magazine, the director of operations for Writers Resist, and an assistant professor at Holy Family University in Philadelphia. Please put your hands together for Keith.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. This seems like a really, really fantastic community, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And thanks to Jane and Jack and Katie. It was awesome to hear your poems. Since we're all lovers of words, I'm going to read from Count 4. It looks like this. Since we're all lovers of words, I thought I would start with a poem about words. It's called Etymology. We need a German word for when someone you love or a celebrity turns out to be a Scientologist. I know the Germans have already given us a word for the desire one feels climbing through a window to have sex with their first girlfriend while her father, a floor below, sharpens his ceremonial Prussian sword. And another to describe the embarrassment we feel on our own behalves when our friends' dance moves look like their most sensitive parts have been hooked to a car battery, while an Orthodox priest revs the engine. But the word I propose is more intricate, acknowledges the choices we make while still capturing the post-coital pleasure that comes when releasing small whiffs of judgment. Like when you're driving and a squirrel darts at your car, so you brake hard just as it turns back to the shoulder and you think, yeah, buddy, good call. But as you speed up again, the contents shift in the tiny suitcase of its brain and it turns and jumps right under your tire. The meaning of our word is not in this moment, but rather in what comes after. When you start to admit to yourself that you might have seen the squirrel starting to turn, but you couldn't be bothered to brake again. How you feel sad for a second, but then think, you didn't invent the order of species, and how at this point in history, the damn thing is designed absolutely to die. So it's unclear whether you're upset about killing something or because you've been trying to find parking for like 20 minutes. And now that you finally have, you're standing at the meter and it keeps eating your money without giving you back any time. So a lot of the poems in this collection are about, it's kind of like an origin story of my introduction to punk music and the disastrous events that took place from there in my life. And so I thought I would share one of those poems that talks about kind of some of the earliest moments. It's called Monument. Since I've spent this hour perfecting the controlled arc of spray paint to enclose a giant red A scrawled across the clapboard siding of someone's vacation home, I decide it's a good idea to run when the police appear in response to the rattan patio bonfire I've started with a blowtorch of hairspray and a lighter stolen from my mother's purse. But even though I fold myself creepvine flat along the banks of the Bristol River, I am caught, zip-tied and foot-stuffed into the cubby-holed back seat of an idling Crown Vic, my wrist shredding more with each strange shout through the window at the chubby rookie left behind to watch me. Even then, I knew he was the boy picked last, yet secretly too sure of himself in a body growing faster than the small world it governed. He was like the dinosaur sponges I bought at the market to ripen in kitchen bowls until they capped their potential by sucking every container dry. I swear I can see that water on his cheeks as he pulls me from the car by my neck, getting bigger and taller and thicker in front of me. My compliant frame absorbing each swing of his nightstick until I too finally start to take shape. So I love this. I love this move. I'm from Rhode Island, and there's this unfortunate thing. Perhaps some of you are also from New England. Maybe it didn't happen to you, but profanity becomes kind of a punctuation mark in a lot of New England culture. And I learned this kind of the hard way when I entered academia, that this was not the correct way to exist. But I wrote a poem about it, and it's called Georgic on the Boston comma. Begin with knowing the comma is a word, and the word is always fucking. Forget the gerund, then torque the lazy U into an A, and let the vowel kneel into the roof of your mouth like a penitent against a church pew. Now practice placing it in a sentence. Ma, I stopped on the way, but fucking the spa was out of papers. Notice how the proper usage places the comma after the conjunction or at the start of a new sentence, as in fucking a horse cop had traffic stopped all down Charles starting at Dorchester. Never use the comma when speaking to your boss or to a church figure, but fucking use it as much as you want on Joan of Arc's feast day, patron saint of profanity, who once chastised a soldier for swearing by reminding him that it's, quote, foolish to sin when one is so close to death. But we're all close to death, Joan. So fucking fuck that. This comma, handed down from generations of working class parents to their knob-spined children peddling knockoff sunglasses on beach towels spread out around the fringes of Jamaica Plain. Comma that says, yes, I believe in heaven and hell, but I'm too broke to be scared about it. Comma that admits there are limits to your dreams when you live in the same row house you were born in. Never use the comma out of anger. Instead, keep it as a prayer exalted in syntax, a promise to yourself that God exists, and fucking somewhere out there, he's pretending to listen, at least as much as we're all pretending to talk to him. I got a couple more for you. This poem is another one of those punk rock poems, I guess. It's as close to an anti-drug poem as I get. Cheers. This poem's called Coke Folks. Coke Folks are as loyal as any lesser household pet, a gerbil or a fish whose hunger response we like to think of as human when our loneliness projects itself onto their captivity. Which is why I'm nodding at Judy across her kitchen table, crowded with randoms here to score. She's cutting a few lines for me between details of how small her husband's dick is and how terrible the sex has gotten. He's in earshot, but he doesn't seem to notice because he's getting his back cracked by T, their supplier who, Judy tells me, decided to move in last week. In a year, Judy ends up incarcerated for running over a cyclist when heading home from Buddy's Oyster Bar. But right now, she's as in control as any substitute teacher, yelling at T to put her husband down, because if they keep rocking up on each other's backs, one of them is going to kick out the light, and then no one will be able to see what they're putting up their noses. Just for a moment, our small schoolyard goes quiet. Then T slinks away to his bedroom, and Judy's husband asks for a cigarette. Judy says she thinks she's hurt T's feelings, and she's going upstairs to, quote, change into her pajamas. I have a beer with her husband, give what cigarettes I've got to him and a few other strangers who call me friend, no matter how many times I offer them my name. An hour into this, I decide to leave, but before I'm out the door, Judy stops me in the foyer, wearing only her panties, slips a gram bag into my pocket she says is just for me, that she's always liked me more than her other junkie friends. She says that we should go out and do this bag in my car together. I waffle, go back into the kitchen for a while and pretend to look for the lighter that's still in my pocket. Judy's not there when I leave again. I worry I've hurt her feelings, but only for a moment. Then I drive home to sleep when my body decides I'm allowed to. In the morning, I wake to a pounding at my door, and there's Judy, furious and still mostly naked. She says she passed out waiting for me, slept the night on the floor of my back seat. Oh my God, she says, how could you let me do this? You know everyone's gonna be worried and sick about me. What will they do for breakfast? Got one last one for you guys. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this show. It's called Ancient Aliens. It's this show on the History Channel, or I think still, where basically any smart idea that we've had in the last 1,000 years that we can't explain, we attribute to aliens, which really kind of undermines the intelligence of people that come before us. But the thing that's like wonderful to this show about me, wonderful about this show to me, is that it's like a masterclass in rhetoric, right? Because everything that they say is kind of backed by this idea of, isn't it possible, right? And so if this poetry thing just like totally cans, I'm gonna try to be a writer for Ancient Aliens. But this last poem's called Ancient Astronaut Theory. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out. My friends' marriages are failing in their collective prophecy of a future where people in love beat the natural universal order. But isn't it possible? Asked the omniscient voiceover. And I'm thinking, sure, the pyramids were built by aliens. Adam and Eve were celestial beings, and all of us are just stones paving the road to a Mayan apocalypse. My friend Don thinks he's good at scratch tickets. I've seen him scrape a whole stick figure family off the back windshield of a minivan. We are not alone, the voiceover says. And the debris left by all the weddings on Earth forms a comet of hors d'oeuvres and cocktail napkins barreling through the coat check room of our singular universe. Don declares he's never getting married. He's gonna ride his scratch-off skills all the way to the state Powerball, buy an RV, and find the alien settlement of Branson. I don't believe he'll find it, so its existence doesn't matter. This is the circular logic that ignores your spouse, deadbolting the door when you go out to investigate the light in the backyard. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. So, you know, I'm going to ask you about it. You know, I'm going to want to talk about it, the comma poem. Tell us, well, first of all, I should preface that by saying I lived in New England for 7 years. 7 long years. I lived in Boston and Providence. So I totally feel you. I think profanity.
Rhode Island. Woo.
Yeah. I loved it there. I lived on the east side. I loved it. But okay. So number one, I think that poetry or academia and profanity should have more crossover. I mean, come on. And yes, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Tell us, where can we purchase that poem? if I wanted to purchase that poem, where can I get it?
That poem exists in this book.
All right.
Count 4.
Fucking A.
You can purchase it in this book.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you totally. I don't think that there's such a thing as bad words. There's only words you have to take responsibility for, right? And so I just think that the idea of a word being taboo or bad is the antithesis of what we all believe in as writers, right? So I was just kind of tired of everybody being so appalled if I said fuck. I was like, what? You've all said it. So, you know, I wasn't going to say it to my dean, but I did. I mean, I don't know. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Love it. No, and all of the, I think everybody tonight was so awesome at specificity in language and kind of like the image. And I think someone else said it in the chat too, the poem with Judy and the last line about breakfast, like that was just so specific. And I was just like, yes, of course. Like, how else would this poem end? So, so thank you so much for reading tonight. Thank you to all of the readers who read tonight. You were all fantastic. And please come back this time next week. You'll have Ridge back, I think, yeah, hopefully. And no, I had a blast. I hope you did too. Yeah, thank you so much for spending your Friday with us.
All right. I'd like to extend a big thanks to Charlotte Seeley for hosting. I find that I'm speechless after these readings, so I am grateful to her for expressing our appreciation of the poets we've heard tonight. She can be found on Twitter at CharlotteXtina. Info on our show can be found at tgicast.com. Follow the show's incomparable host on Twitter at Ridge Cresswell. And our luminous, talented booker can be found on Twitter at Noli Reed. This show absolutely runs on friendship. If you have a friend who you'd like to hear on our show, please let us know. And thank you for coming and for supporting our community. And I am going to stop the recording. Stop.